You know, in life, sometimes things get stale. And when that happens, you got to do a little shake up. And that's what we saw here in wrestling this week.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Welcome, everyone, to this brand new episode 6 of Break It Down with Brian H. You know who I am, Brian H. Waters, co-host of the Wrestling Wrealm, the show that this show is presented by. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube to check it out. So, as you know, Smackdown, Raw, there was a Superstar Shakeup in the WWE. So you may say, who won? I'm going to say right off top, Smackdown won. The same way I did in 2002 when they had the draft that I will still say I was not a fan of. Understand why. You know, as I got older and started to understand the business more, I just didn't like the fact that I couldn't see Stone Cold and The Rock on the same show, or Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, stuff like that. But now, you know, I understand it. It's too many people. All right, we ain't going to say too many people because everybody's getting a paycheck. There's a lot of people on the WWE payroll. You got two shows, split them up. That way people can get an opportunity. So let's get right into it. We're going to start right off with our top rope.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
All right, so our top rope, and you know, most of the segments will be about the actual shakeup. So the top rope will be about the shakeup. The tap out will be about the shakeup. But the top rope this week is, for me, Miz going to SmackDown. It's something I wanted to see ever since Daniel Bryan was cleared. I've been wanting to see this match. You go back to Talking Smack when Daniel Bryan and The Miz were both on there, and The Miz owned Daniel Bryan. He said everything that he said. According to The Miz, he was off script because they didn't have nothing for him, and he was the Intercontinental Champion. And he said exactly how he felt, and Daniel Bryan couldn't say anything. And everybody knows I'm a huge Daniel Bryan fan, but I knew right there, I was like, man, he got him, because you knew that Daniel Bryan wanted to punch him in the face. And you go to Twitter, you'll see where Daniel Bryan says, yes, he's on SmackDown, I get to punch him in the face. But what did that mean? Miz said, well, guess what? Because you know he was going to reply. He said, yeah, you punch me in the face, you might get injured. But then they had a little video, and it's The Miz is basically saying all stuff he's going to do. And it was very interesting. Didn't really care for the baby. You know, I'm like, Miz, why? I understand Maurice. You know, I understand you don't want to use your child, but a doll baby. But I guess, you know, to make it fun, you got to do what you got to do. Now, let's stick with Daniel Bryan, because if you were watching, you would have saw that Big Cass is on SmackDown now. And he came out early and just completely disrespected Daniel Bryan. Said that, you're a little guy, pretty much. And he came out and beat him up at the end of the show. And so that's look like we're going to get that Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan in the future. You may be a fan of it, you may not be. Let's see what happens. This is a good feud, I guess, for Big Cass. You know, certainly he's in the spotlight because everybody, if you're connected with Daniel Bryan right now, everybody's going to tune in, especially people like me, because I haven't seen my guy wrestle in almost 3 years. So, Big Cass attacking Daniel Bryan. I want to see where this goes. Because obviously the money feud is The Miz and Daniel Bryan, so maybe we're not going to get it just yet. We'll get it, but Big Cass, you know, Daniel Bryan will have to settle that beef. And we'll stay right there, because before he was attacked, AJ Styles was attacked by Shinsuke Nakamura. And what does he do? That low blow. And then says he speak no English. And this is after a tag team match that featured Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles taking on Aiden English and Rusev. If you don't know, Rusev is back in the casket match with The Undertaker at Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Just a little side note there. And so AJ and Shinsuke, that's the main feud. We got Daniel Bryan and The Miz, but you know, that's the secondary feud. And then you also have Daniel Bryan and Big Cass right now, because DB is not going to take that lightly, and he's been slaying giants since. So, no, we didn't get Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, but I'll take Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass right now. So, let's see how that goes. So, let's move on to Monday Night Raw, because Well, actually, you know what? Let's stay with SmackDown. Samoa Joe came over to SmackDown, and he pretty much owned everybody. He said he's going to put down Daniel Bryan because that's who fans want to see. He's going to take out Randy Orton, and then he's going for AJ Styles. Now, me personally, I'm a huge fan of this. It was just funny because on Monday Night Raw, he went out and told Roman Reigns, like, look, dude, I'm going to beat you up. And he showed him a video of Roman just getting beat up by Brock Lesnar. And then Roman said, well, what about what you've done? But, so I guess the thing is, what would have happened with Samoa Joe had he won, after he's finished with Roman, where did he go from there? I mean, I know he's still in the Intercontinental title picture because he's vowed to win the title at Greatest Royal Rumble and bring it to SmackDown. Then he's also said that if Roman can somehow win, because let's not forget, he still has a match with Roman Reigns at Backlash. So if Roman wins the title, Samoa Joe could bring the Universal title to SmackDown. Wow. Now, let's just think about this for a second. We know it probably will not happen, folks. I know that. But let's put our kayfabe hats on. You could have Samoa Joe, a former TNA champion, and AJ Styles, a former TNA champion, both on SmackDown with both of WWE's most prestigious titles. Now, how would that sound? So that's certainly interesting. Let's take a quick break. We got a word from Glenn Thomas.
This is Glenn Thomas with the Wrestling Marks of Excellence, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H. Waters, brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely encourage you to check out the Wrestling Marks of Excellence. Glenn and Corey do a great job each and every week. I look forward to their shows. A lot of shows I look forward to. I'm a podcast guy. I'll let you know. So you out there, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be on a podcast this week because I'm not sure when you're listening. And if you already listen, make sure you after you finish this show, go check it out. But yeah, I'm going to be on Ron and Nick's Rundown and going to talk some WWE. That's what I do. I like to go talk. I went on the Big Gold Belt podcast a couple weeks ago. Was on last week, man. The real Dwayne Allen and I, we were busy. We were on the Flex Zone. We were on Rolling with Ramos. So, Brian H. Waters making my media round. So if you want me to come on your show, talk wrestling, I have no problem. Look forward to doing it. So let's move on. We had Jeff Hardy going to, Jinder Mahal took the United States title that he won at WrestleMania, took that to Monday Night Raw, and then lost it to Jeff Hardy. And then what did Jeff Hardy do? He brought it back to SmackDown. Now, when you're watching that match, first thing you think is, as soon as Jinder Mahal music hit, you say, all right, he's bringing the title to Raw. That means Seth Rollins is taking the title to SmackDown. Nope. WWE hit with the swerve. And I told everybody who would listen, don't be surprised if Jeff Hardy brings that title to SmackDown, and he did. It's good to see him separate from his brother, Matt. Matt is doing his thing with Bray Wyatt, which we'll get into later. But, so we'll see Jeff Hardy on SmackDown. So that's pretty good. Now, let's move on to the women of SmackDown. So, as you know, we had a celebration on SmackDown Live. Carmella cashed in, became the new women's champion after she beat Charlotte, and then she went on to celebrate. Well, you can't have a celebration without an interruption. Charlotte comes out there, and she has stuff to say. And then, of course, the iconic duo, they had to come out. And they all proceed to beat up Charlotte. Well, here comes Becky Lynch. Well, she got beat up. And after that, well, guess what? Here comes Asuka. And Asuka is now on SmackDown, folks. So that's going to be great. That means, I see a future Charlotte and Asuka match. But we ain't got to get there right now. It was great at WrestleMania, match of the night. But we can get that later. It's going to be fun to see what happens with Carmella as she goes and, because she's going to hold on. I believe she'll hold on to that title for a while. And I love the video package. If you watch carefully, she made that about her. she did not once show James Ellsworth, and then that's what Charlotte called her out and said, you won the briefcase because of a chinless freak. But then she didn't even show the iconic duo helping her. And Carmella's going to be a great heel. She's already a great heel. She's going to be a great champion. I'm excited to see where she goes. And so we saw them. Then we saw the Riot Squad go to Raw. And, of course, they made their presence known, interrupting the match that everybody had been waiting for, Sasha and Bayley. Guess what? Neither lady has moved, so we'll probably see a payoff soon. I think WWE kind of wanted to give us that match only to introduce the Riot Squad on Raw. But, you know, there'll be probably some payback and repercussions, but then we'll get Sasha and Bayley perhaps at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. Which Riot Squad going over, that meant Absolution is coming to SmackDown. Wasn't a big promo surrounded by that. But let me tell you what I did like. On Raw, we saw Natalya, because Natalya joined Raw, and her and Ronda Rousey discussed training together. And Rousey, it was a match between, it was a match with Natalya involved, and she got beat up by the Riot Squad. And no, I'm sorry, Absolution. Natalya versus Mandy Rose. And afterwards, we saw Rousey and Sonya Deville kind of get into it. And that's something I want to see. But maybe they're not going to give us that right now. Maybe because Sonya Deville still isn't a superstar. They want to kind of get her, and she's not a veteran, so they want to get Rousey working with some vets. But we saw the takedowns. I was like, uh-oh, here we go. 2 MMA ladies. But it was Rousey obviously getting the better of it. And so let's see. A couple more movements to Raw. We saw the Fashion Police come on over. We also saw Zack Ryder and Baron Corbin join Monday Night Raw. And so those are some other moves. But let's go to a quick break before I get into the next discussion.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Kelsey Nicole Nelson, host of Listen In with K&N on Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. And I want to make sure you are listening right here to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a word from Kelsey Nelson. And I promise you, if you're a wrestling fan, you will want to tune in to her next episode of Listen In with K&N. Also, while you're at it, subscribe, download on iTunes. Go in the archives, you'll hear me talk about it. I can talk about wrestling, talk a little sports. Definitely talked about why I left WSU wrestling. You want to know why? Listen to that show. But let's get right back to it. Monday Night Raw saw Bobby Roode, the glorious one, come on over. I'm excited to see this one. Wasn't sure how I felt about it. At first, I was like, oh, man, Bobby Roode seems like a Smackdown guy. Never really got to see him play out. I would have loved to see heel Bobby Roode, maybe get Roode and AJ in the WWE ring. But nonetheless, he'll be over there. You know, he's a bigger guy. Can we get Bobby Roode and Triple H? That's the dream match I want to see. So, but we also saw, and now looking back at it before I go on, now I see why we didn't get him. Because if Bobby Roode would have still been on SmackDown, that would have meant that all TNA guys, all TNA megastars that was homegrown would have been on SmackDown. I mean, yeah, you got Lashley over there, but Lashley was born and raised in the WWE, not like Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe. So we also saw Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre together. I gotta admit, I wasn't sure how I felt about that one. I'm like, man, what in the world? But my brother of superior wrestling intellect, the real Dwayne Allen, of course, you know, we all in the group text, he, me, with the Flex Zone, we're talking, and he said, oh, let me remind you something. He sends me a picture of 2 dudes with attitudes, HBK and Diesel. And then I go on the internet and that Twitter machine, and I see a lot of people bringing it up. And I thought about it, I said, wait a minute, this could be a big deal. Dolph Ziggler finally has his Diesel. Now, if you notice, who did Shawn Michaels have before he had Diesel? He had Sensational Sherry. Dolph Ziggler had AJ Lee and Vicky Guerrero in the past. AJ Lee and Vicky Guerrero were both by his side when he became world heavyweight champion. I just never thought Dolph could sustain by himself. Last year at SummerSlam, 2 years ago at SummerSlam when he wrestled Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship, I thought, all right, maybe this is going to be the night. And he still couldn't get it done. I don't know what's wrong with the guy. Maybe you guys know. Somebody tell me what's wrong with Dolph Ziggler. And you know what? I'm not saying like, because I'm not the biggest Ziggler fan. I used to root for him, and I was like, you know what? It's getting stale. You know, the whole whatever. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let me take another quick break.
What's good, everybody? This your boy Drizzy Dre, Mr. One and Only from the Flex Zone, Mondays at 10 p.m. on WBGR. And right now you are listening to Break It Down with my boy Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
All right, so now let's go run down a couple more call-ups we saw on from NXT. We saw the former champion Adrana Cien Samus and Sanity. They get called up. They're on SmackDown. As I said, Absolution's on SmackDown. Monday Night Raw, having Zack Ryder, the Fashion Police, Baron Corbin. Those are going to be some interesting moves. I don't expect nothing big from the Raw guys. From the SmackDown people, Sanity is going to be great because it's another tag team and it's another faction. Hopefully they won't get lost like the Fashion Police did. I call them the Fashion Files. The Fashion Police did. I don't see them doing much on Monday Night Raw either, to be honest with you. But I do see some bigger things coming. Cien, I kind of wanted to see him stay on NXT a little bit longer and go back and forth with Aleister Black, but I didn't. But then so let's move on. We got the Tag Team Championship for Monday Night Raw. That match is set in place where we'll have Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy taking on Cesaro and Sheamus at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Now, when that happens, this is going to be interesting because Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, I mean, who would have thought we would have saw them two together? I mean, they just, in the compound at they was just had a match at the compound at a lot of people. Oh, this should be a WrestleMania. But this is why we don't book, we just watch. Obviously, WWE knew what they were doing. They put Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy together at WrestleMania, and these two could be on their way to becoming the new WWE Raw Tag Team Champions. So now, what else we have? If you didn't know, Rusev is back into the WWE, is back into the casket match with The Undertaker. So I'm excited to see exactly what happens with that. Can Rusev defeat the Dead Man and send him home finally? Or will the Dead Man bury Rusev Day? We also saw R-Truth going on to SmackDown. I don't know how much is going to happen with him, but, he's going to probably play around with the Perfect 10. And the Bar. They don't just set the bar. They are the Bar. They're going to SmackDown. That's probably a big shock to me. Didn't think they would leave. But those guys are good, and maybe they could be the ones to take out the Bludgeon Brothers. Now, did you see what happened? The Bludgeon Brothers took out the Usos again, but then it came Naomi running down there to save her husband. I loved it. Gives that realness factor. What woman isn't gonna save their husband? Let's be real. She pleaded for his mercy. Now I do think it's just the Attitude Era. I think they would have probably said, "Oh nah, we're gonna beat her up too." So that was certainly interesting. I'm like, man. So let's move on. 205 Live. Have you been watching? If not, you need to. Buddy Murphy last week attacked Cedric Alexander as he was, doing this championship celebration. Well, I say it's always an attack, right? But then about to call him Rockstar Spud. Drake Maverick said, you know what? We're going to make a title match. And they'll face off at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander. But guess what? In 205 Live, if you do not know, there's a weight limit. And you should already know how much weight limit is. Buddy Murphy did not make weight. He was 207 pounds. So him being 207 pounds, that forced him to not be able to be in that match. So next week on 205 Live, if you're not watching, you want to see this, there's going to be a gauntlet match where the winner will go on at Greatest Royal Rumble and challenge Cedric for the title. So now it's time for the Tapped Out.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
So my Tapped Out this week is the fact that the New Day and the Usos are still on the same show. I was hoping one of them left, only because they've exhausted that for a whole year, and it was cool, but I was thinking one of them would leave. I'm like, come on now, but that's not the case. So that's my Tapped Out for the week. My honorary mention for the Tapped Out, though, is the unfortunate news that Nikki Bella and John Cena have split after 6 years. And, the internet had a lot of fun with this. Some people even said it's a work. Apparently, if you remember, Nikki Bella signed a 75-page document that said she would move, if you've been following Total Divas, but it said she would move after they broke up. Very unfortunate situation. Somebody put a tweet up, says like WrestleMania 33 never happened. I ain't trying to hear that. I was there. And that night when he proposed, everybody, and there was probably, everybody was into it, whether you like Cena or not. It was a special moment, and it's unfortunate that they didn't get to see everything all the way through. But yeah, they said it was like it never happened because along with that, we also saw The Undertaker return. So, that's just, like I said, it's very unfortunate that happened.
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week.
All right, it's time for Wrestling for the Culture this week. This show is Wrestling for the Culture, in case you did not know, is presented by Amazon. How is it presented by Amazon, you saying? Go right to thebrianhwaters.com, because I know everybody who's listening has made an Amazon purchase once or twice. Well, go right on there, click the link, make your purchases from my website, help the show out, help me out, giving you free content, free entertainment. Just go ahead, when you make your purchase, just purchase it right from there. Purchase it, same store, same location, but just make sure you go to my website first, then click the link, and that'll take you to Amazon. Thanks. So, this week, got a new episode from the Wrestling Wrealm. Yes, we got a new clip. We got the segment, Gimmie The Book. And this week, we took the book and rebooked the main event for WrestleMania 2000. Make sure you check that out on our YouTube channel, The Wrestling Wrealm. We also saw Sasha and Bayley didn't have a finish. Like I said earlier, the Riot Squad made their debut on Raw. Bianca Belair and Montez Ford set a wedding date. Congratulations to them. Their wedding coming up in June. Rich Swann, former Cruiserweight champion, returned to CZW this week. Also, on his podcast, Booker T, Heated Conversations, which is in my podcast rotation, he called out Bill Goldberg. What exactly happened? Go on thebrianhwaters.com. You'll find out. We also saw the one and only Shane Strickland won the Major League Wrestling World title. Shane Strickland is certainly racking up a lot of gold, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Bay won the Maverick Pro title. Sean Dean won the Anarchy Pro Midway title. Andy Brown won not one, but 2 titles. Check out the blog. You'll see which titles they were, and you'll see on Instagram. Willow Nightingale made her Shimmer debut. You can check out an interview I did with her a couple of weeks ago on thebrianhwaters.com. Last but not least, Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaac won the Future Stars Wrestling Tag titles. So, now it's time for your questions.
And now for this week's questions from the realm.
From the realm this week, we got my boy Terrence of Talking About Wrestling. Make sure you check him out at TW Talking About on Twitter. Make sure you also check out their podcast at Talking About Pod on Twitter, and make sure you download them in iTunes as well. Talking About Wrestling. Him and Satch always over there bringing good content for you. His question: what big 3 swaps would you have made if I was in charge of the shakeup? So I would have brought Rollins to SmackDown. I would have sent Randy Orton to Monday Night Raw, and I sent New Day to Raw. That would have been my big 3 changes. And we have Sean Williams, host of The Shark Attack, which you can find his show on SoundCloud and iTunes, I believe. He has 3 questions. So first, with the roster shakeup, who do you think will prosper the most? Samoa Joe. Obviously, with a roster shakeup, the biggest goal is the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship. He is the guy that I see wearing the WWE Championship. Now, last year, you said that. Who would have thought that Jinder Mahal would have been the one who would have prospered the most? So, I don't see there being any Jinder Mahals necessarily in this one, but I do think Samoa Joe will wear the WWE title. Next question. Do you think Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre teaming up is a benefit or a step back? I think it's a benefit, and here's the reason. As I said earlier, it's Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Perhaps that's one of the best duos in wrestling history that's kind of forgotten about, because it wasn't that long, but you look at the success both of them had, they both were Triple Crown champions. So you take that, and then you look what happened later. It set up for a good rivalry before Diesel ultimately left. I think that this could set up Dolph Ziggler or Drew McIntyre, depending who is the one to turn on who, could set them up for a good babyface run. Question is, how long is it going to take? Because we also do have to remember the roster is stacked more now than it was in 1994. So, but personally, I do think that this will be a benefit to both, because one, they'll be on TV. I don't see neither one of them getting lost in the shuffle. And then last question of the evening. Do you think WWE is scared to take the belt off Brock? No, I don't think they're scared. I just think they want it to be a big deal when they do. They don't want to just take it off of them. You know, I think about Braun Strowman. He could have won it this past summer or spring. Well, last spring or summer. He wasn't ready. As much as we want him to see it, it's like, yeah, he's a star. He's gotten so much better since then. The thing about Samoa Joe. Yeah, but then Joe can be injury prone. And I don't think they were ready for kind of a heel to take away from a sort of heel. So if Joe is somebody that I would see taking the belt off of AJ Styles and then the babyface chasing him. Just like if he was still been on Raw, I would have seen him taking the belt off of Roman Reigns. So that's where, hindsight being 2020. Oh, I do got another question just came in. My buddy Kahar, find him on Twitter at Kahar Kanan. Kahar said this, bro, why in the world, what happened to TNA? Their roster was so stacked. So of course I asked him, I got permission because this is a phone text conversation. Like, dude, did you watch TNA during the heyday? He meant that he didn't. I was like, man, they put on some great wrestling. Had some good stories too. What happened? Well, guess what? At the end of the day, nobody's Vince McMahon. And clearly, you see with the WWE product, and you can turn on your network, you just go there and just go through all their content. You have to have somebody who's like that obsessed with their job and that obsessed with their brand and content to get it like this. Nobody in TNA felt that way about wrestling the way Vince McMahon did. That is why TNA is where they were. sucks, but as great as AJ Styles is, we gotta admit, he wasn't at this great in TNA. He was a great wrestler, but the character, the microphone skills, the personality, that wasn't there. Samoa Joe and Bobby Roode, they were great. So that's what I look at. You know, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. You know, even Eric Young. When Eric Young was TNA champion, to me, he wasn't what he is now. I'm like, wait, this dude, they only gave him the belt because Daniel Bryan just won the belt. So that is the answer to that. Ladies and gentlemen, what a week it's been in professional wrestling. Make sure you are subscribed to us on iTunes and YouTube. Just simply search The Wrestling Wrealm. Make sure you check us out. Make sure you go on iTunes and drop me a 5-star rating. That way I can make it up in the ranks of professional wrestling podcasts. Also, make sure you go on Amazon. Make sure you go on my website, thebrianhwaters.com, and then go to Amazon when you make your purchases. We'll definitely appreciate that. Let me know. I'll give you a shout out on the show. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everyone.